Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. It's so greatly appreciate it. Before we start, let me give you my usual disclaimer that this video is for educational purposes only. Please do not take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research and come to your own conclusions. Next. If you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please consider doing so. It would really mean a lot to me. It really helps me out. I really appreciate it. And with that, let's start. Laura Grillo. Laura Grillo was born on August 17th, 1978 in Baltimore, Maryland. In 2008, she was a single mom living with 2 children in Maryland. One day, while playing video games, she would end up chatting with a Greek businessman named John Markris. Friends would say that there was chemistry between them from the Jump Street, really. And they would begin emailing, texting, and calling each other. Laura and her husband had separated, so she felt lonely and vulnerable, as I know most women do after they get out of a divorce, after they get out of a marriage or a relationship. It sucks. It's awful. I know. After about 6 months of chatting, Laura would decide to move her and her children to Rowlett, Texas, to be near John. Once in Texas, Laura would work 2 jobs in order to afford her own place to be by John. On top of being a huge confidant to her, John loved Laura's kids, and that meant so much to her. She was truly ready to give love a second chance, and she was so excited for the future. In 2010, Laura finds out that her and John are going to have a baby, a little girl, and the couple were ecstatic. By all accounts, John was an amazing father. He changed diapers, he played with her, he took her to the park, and he doted on her. She was the light of his life. After baby Maria comes along, Laura and her 3 children move into John's home, and they become one big blended family. Laura was a stay-at-home mom raising the children, and she was perfectly content with that. She would even invite her brother Brian to move in with her. Brian was on the autism spectrum, and he was partially deaf in one ear and completely deaf in another ear. So this living situation was ideal for him. Plus, John loved Brian. John and Laura end up opening a home remodeling business together, and they both graduate from Citizens Police Academy in November of 2014, and they become volunteers of police services. This would include performing clerical tasks, serving as an extra set of eyes and ears, assisting with search and rescue, and writing citations for parking violations. As time went on, there would be a lot more cracks in the relationship, and friends would take notice of this. Saying that Laura always had her head down, she never looked happy, and that John was a very possessive individual. June 2015, Laura decides that she has had enough, and she sends John an email breaking things off with him while he's away on a trip. And although this is not the nicest way to end things with someone, especially the father of your child, we don't know if she was scared to do it in person, so I feel like for that reason, she kind of deserves a pass. With the letter saying in part, I don't want to be the reason that you don't go see your kids. If you and I are not together, then you shouldn't have any problems visiting with them and spending more time with them. You have been blaming it on us for too long, 4 years. I am not going to put up with it for another 10. I am sorry, but I have just had enough. Like when I was pregnant and you didn't believe that she was yours. Neither did the rest of your family. Once I had her, then I was forced to take a paternity test to prove that she was yours. You said the court needed it, which wasn't true. I believe it was your own personal reasons, since the lawyer left it at his office, and it wasn't needed and just left at his office. I suffered so much during my pregnancy, and you didn't care until after you found out that she was yours. I'm not going to keep bringing up the past in this letter to you. I have been through so much with you, good and bad. Our relationship has changed so much through the years, and not for the best. It seems to be getting worse and worse. All we do is argue just about everything. We no longer see eye to eye on anything anymore. I don't think it is in their best interest to hear us fighting all the time. I'm just very tired of everything, and I think I need to be on my own and take care of my children. You told me I need to be supportive. I have been nothing but supportive over and over again. There comes a time when it gets old. True. Especially when things stay the same. They never change. You're not very supportive towards me either. I don't even bother to argue with you. I just shut my mouth and deal with it. You're always stressed out. I don't even enjoy our time together anymore. I do want you to know that I cannot guarantee that we will always reside in Texas once we move. I will go where I can find better work and I can provide a better life for my children. I hope you understand and accept the fact that our relationship is coming to an end and that we will both be free to do whatever we want without having to answer to anyone. I'm sorry that it has to be this way, but it is for the best. Unfortunately, I won't be able to move out of the house right away. I need to find a job and start working so I can save money to find a place to live. I will do my best to be out of the house ASAP. This way you can move forward with your life as well and not be so heartbroken. Fighting all the time isn't good for any child, so just letting go and moving on is the best solution. I have already discussed this with the children, and they will understand as they get older. I mentioned to them that there is a chance that they will be changing schools, depending on where we end up moving to. This is part of life, and adjustments will be made by all of us. Just so you know, I have this Thursday covered, and you are not needed. I can also handle the party that is scheduled for this Saturday as well, so just stay there and enjoy your time away. I'm getting tired of typing, so I'm going to stop with the letter. I hope you understand. Anyway, enjoy your time in Georgia. John did not take this news very well at all, and went home immediately to patch things up, saying that he couldn't bear to lose Laura, her children, or their daughter Maria. John wanted Laura's children to be his children. He wanted to raise those kids, and he wanted to be a family. So, in July of 2015, John decides to make the bold move of getting down on one knee and proposing to Laura. Laura accepts, and so begins the fresh start of their relationship that they so desperately needed. Laura would spend the next 4 months planning the wedding of her dreams. She would pick her best friend Heather to be her matron of honor and asked her brother to walk her down the aisle, while John asked his co-worker, who was a registered sex offender, to be his best man. Okay. Friday, November 13th, 2015, 8 days before John and Laura's wedding, started like any other typical day. Laura left home early in the morning to get the kids to school, while John went to Home Depot to pick up supplies for their business with his mother, who was in town for the wedding. Laura would get back home between the hours of 8:10 and 8:22 a.m. At 8:39 a.m., John would try calling her, and again at 8:46 a.m., but she didn't pick up the phone. At 9:50 a.m., John, along with his 2 co-workers, Jesus Trevino and James Valletta, were at the Home Depot on Lemon Ave in Dallas to pick up doors. This Home Depot was 44 minutes from John and Laura's home. From there, the 3 and John's mother drive to Home Depot on Forest Central Drive, which is 22 minutes from the Home Depot on Lemon Ave. Follow? The 3 are seen on surveillance cameras corroborating these stories. At 11:30 a.m., the school calls John to ask if someone is going to come pick up his daughter. John makes multiple calls to Laura, but they go unanswered again. So he decides to call a neighbor and ask the neighbor to walk next door and check on Laura. During this time, Laura's brother Brian wakes up and walks into the kitchen, where he finds who he thinks is John's mother face down in a pool of blood in the kitchen and calls 911. A few minutes later, while still on the phone with John, the neighbor approaches the home, walks inside, and relays the heart-wrenching news to John. While police wait for the medical examiner to arrive, they begin to look around the house. They notice there's no forced entry. The front door has a push-button lock and unlock feature. Their shell casing is from a .40 caliber, which is a gun that is typically used by law enforcement and not so much by civilians. There was a safe that was open in the bedroom, and items were thrown all around. Drawers and jewelry boxes had been dumped out, and it was later reported to police that a necklace worth thousands of dollars was missing, along with cash. So Laura interrupting a burglary was not off the table just yet. They began to take fingerprint evidence and blood evidence. After the medical examiner arrived, they rolled the victim over and identified her as Laura Grillo, due to the fact that she was holding her Roll-It ID card in her hand. She had been once above her left eye, and the bullet lodged behind her right ear. Because Laura still had her purse with her when she was found, police determined that she was shot almost immediately after arriving home. Police first interview Laura's brother, and they're very suspicious of him because he was home sleeping and didn't hear the shot, which is very, very loud. He would eventually be cleared by police, though, after they find out that not only is he on the spectrum, but he is also completely deaf in one ear and partially deaf in another ear. Next, they bring in Fiancé John. They tell him that the victim was indeed Laura. Then they begin questioning him about the events of the day. He tells them all about the Home Depot trips. Next, police interview John's two coworkers. They would also tell police the same story that John told them, and CCTV would confirm these stories. John also took and passed a residue test, which meant that he was not the person that pulled the trigger. When police go back and watch the body camera video from the initial call, they see an interaction with John and a police officer that stops them in their tracks. The officer asks John, who lives in the home? He mentions Brian, the 3 children, along with himself, and his mother that's visiting. But he never mentions his fiancée, Laura. So this would make officers look much closer at John. Obviously, because why wouldn't you mention your fiancé? Plus, at this point, they didn't even know who he didn't know who the victim was. All he was supposed to know was that there was a dead woman in his home. He had no idea what her identity was. Detectives would say that he barely seemed like the grieving fiancé. He was quick to get rid of her things, and he wanted to use the flowers. Ready? And he wanted to use the flowers that were purchased for the wedding for her funeral. Along with this, they found the email that Laura had written to John, breaking things off with him. They also found text messages from John to Jesus Trevino, and John would store Jesus's number in his phone under Ramon. Why? Why, John? Why? Messages that read, 7:48 a.m. Don't be late. Jesus responds, okay. Then John sends another one immediately after that reads, Today's a good day to get some work done. Next, detectives get cell phone records for Jesus Trevino and James Villarda to track their movements the morning of November 13th, 2015. It is here that they realize that Jesus Trevino was in Rolette that morning and that he had lied to officers claiming that he was in Dallas. Around 7:30 that morning, John was heading into Dallas while Jesus and James were heading into Rolette. Trevino's phone pinged off towers near Laura's home at 8:15 a.m. and at 8:20 a.m. When officers run a check on Jesus, they find out that he was a convicted ex-offender and that he was deported on a felony and he was back in the States illegally. December 17th, 2015. 5 weeks after Laura's death, police get an arrest warrant for Jesus for failing to register as an SO. But now he's nowhere to be found. Police decide to ask the media for help, and it ends up working. They're able to get in touch with Jesus' ex-girlfriend, who tells them that on December 13th, 2014, weeks before Laura was killed, she filed a police report. In the report, she says that her boyfriend was being hired to murder. The report goes on to say that approximately a month ago, Jesus told her that his boss offered him $15,000 to his wife or $5,000 to find someone that would. She says in her statement that she asked him several times if he was serious, and every time he would respond that he was serious and that they needed the money. She did not know who the victim was, where the victim lived, or when it was supposed to take place. And I suppose it wouldn't matter anyway, because this report was never followed up on. Next, police obtain warrants to search Jesus' Google accounts. While searching the accounts, they come across a picture of a girl holding a Springfield .40 caliber handgun. The shell casing found at the scene was a .40 caliber shell casing. Police identify the female, and they soon discover that she is another ex of Jesus Trevino, who lives in Colorado. They go to Colorado to speak to her, and she provides them with Jesus Trevino's new cell phone number. From there, they're able to track Jesus Trevino to Clearwater, Florida. And on April 1st, 2016, Jesus Trevino is arrested and taken into custody. Police end up finding another friend of Jesus named Ramon. When they call him in to speak to them, he tells them that he already knows why he's here. That Jesus told him about his plan and that he told Jesus not to get involved with this, but that he just didn't listen. Next, detectives track down the location where the picture of the ex-girlfriend was taken. The person living in that apartment, the ex-roommate of Jesus Trevino, and he tells officers that Jesus asked him to be the getaway driver, but he declined. May 9th, 2016. James Villarda is arrested for failing to register as an SO, because he's one also. After being questioned by police and a Texas Ranger, he finally cracks and gives a full confession. James Villarda says that John and Jesus planned out the details, the time, the getaway car, the various routes through the neighborhood to avoid cameras, and signal from John that it was time to head over to Raleigh. James says that Jesus told him that he was getting paid $15,000 by John to kill Laura, and even went so far as to show police the getaway car and the route they took that morning. Police were able to recover the car, a silver Kia that was bought on Craigslist specifically to be used as the getaway car and then dumped. Once the car was purchased, the two would make several failed attempts to complete this job. The first time, the neighbor's garage door was open, so they didn't do it. The second and third failed attempts were because of similar reasons. On the morning of Friday, November 13th, 2015, John sent a text message to Jesus that he and Laura had both left the house. Jesus and James then drove to the Grillo home in the silver Kia. Jesus put the gun in the pocket of his hoodie, got out of the car, and walked towards the house. Jesus was a frequent visitor to the home because remember, this was also supposed to be John's best man. And he knew the code to the front door. James testified that he drove around the block, and when he returned, Laura's van was in the driveway, and Jesus was standing outside in a hoodie with a ski mask and gloves on. As James drove, Jesus dismantled the into several pieces and placed the pieces into his backpack. He would also throw his clothing and shoes out the window one at a time. They called John to tell him that the job was done, and then they went back to James's hotel to switch cars from the getaway car, the silver Kia, to a black Lincoln. And they drove to meet John at Home Depot. On the way there, the two stop at a gas station, and Jesus hands James a garbage bag with pieces of the dismantled in it and tells him to throw it in the dumpster. The two then go to meet John and his mother at Home Depot on Lemon to pick up the doors. From there, John and his mother were in his work truck, and the other two were in Jesus' girlfriend's black Lincoln, and they leave and they go to Home Depot on Forest to buy a microwave. Once there, Jesus pays James the $1,000 for driving the car. Then they go their separate ways. The school calls John and they tell him that nobody has come to pick up Maria. So John and his mother go to pick up Maria from school. Then they get the call about that he needs to come home. Something has happened at the house. So John calls Laura's best friend and matron of honor and tells her that she needs to come get the kids for him. So she does. That's where the kids were when this whole thing went down, just in case. Because I realized that would have been confusing. That's where they were. They were with Laura's matron of honor. She came and got the kids and kept the kids. On June 2nd, 2016, John Markris was arrested and charged with the murder of Laura Grillo. James Vallejo was offered a plea deal for testifying against John and Jesus, and he was sentenced to 25 years. The motive? Laura's email to John that she wanted to end things. He refused to lose his daughter, Maria. 20 minutes after that email was sent by Laura, he forwarded that email to Jesus, and their sickening plan began to take shape. The proposal was just a ploy to keep Laura there long enough until he can carry out this plan. Police believe that because John went through the Citizens Police Academy, that he became familiar with how they conduct their business, and he believed that he was smarter than the police and that he could get away with it. But he thought wrong. John Markris was sentenced to life without parole. Jesus Trevino was also found guilty and sentenced to life without parole. Okay, guys, if you're still here, thank you. I appreciate you so very much. I truly do. If you have not liked, subscribed, or commented yet, please do so. It means so much to me. If you have any case suggestions, please email me, harding527@yahoo.com. As long as the information is on my side, I am pretty good about covering your cases. Until next time, stay safe out there.